gonna get this.
Great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever this conversation finds you. I am Travis Gray. This is Gray Transforms. Today we are blessed to be with my Haka brother, Leon Ruri, the founding director of Haka for Life. It's Leon, it's often this surface thing to ask somebody, hey, how are you? It's very like a small talk, and I am guilty of starting all my conversations with this. But the reason that we're talking today, I genuinely I want to be in that question as genuinely as possible. Leon, how are you doing today, brother?
Hey, brother, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such an honor to be able to reconnect and to connect back up into America. It's always wonderful to be on platforms like this and creating conversations. To answer your question, I'm in the journey, man. No, I'm in the journey, but
Yeah,
I'm good underneath all of the stuff that's going on in the journey. For me,
good.
recently in the last month, I've just relocated myself in Australia from one side of the country to the other side of the country just to connect to more opportunities. It's a lot more dense population over on the east coast of Australia. So for me, it's been a transition and a change. I've moved away from my children. I'm a single dad that's had my children for full time for 8 years. They're growing up now, and I've got a grandson in the time that we've connected. And so I've moved away from them to relocate myself over on the east coast. I'm staying with a great friend of mine who's helping me establish myself. And there's lots happening. I've been really, really busy. But underneath all of that, one of the things that I'm, constantly reminded of is that being present, in the now.
Yeah.
Quite often when we're creatives or trying to cause things and make things happen, my mind can be stuck out in front of me a whole lot. And at times when that's taking shape, it can be overwhelming if it's not necessarily going the way that I think that it should be going or the way that I might have planned. So what I'm realizing in life is just, brother, enjoy the journey. Don't rush. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so underneath all of that, I'm well. I'm good in myself. I'm constantly reflecting on areas of life that I can improve on and that I can sharpen up on, and then also learning to celebrate the areas in life where I'm really, really great at. So life's good. Life's exactly how I'm creating it to be, and this is all part of it.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that just the foundation underneath it all is solid, that it's in a solid place, and that you're able to be creating this life that you want to have, and to be doing this for the purpose of serving others. Can you tell us a little bit about Haka for Life? What is that? How long ago did you start that? Can you tell us the story behind it?
Yeah, of course. The Hakka for Life was created in 2017. That goes back to a suicide prevention and a men's mental health initiative that I had, which was sort of derived from my own journey in life. At that time, around 2016, I started to do a whole lot of self-development, self-reflection. I was able to change the narrative that I had to myself about myself. I discovered that I could still be a contribution in life to humanity. And so as part of that, that journey of discovering what it is that I needed to change and transform, and what didn't serve me, and what I could be in the future, is that I wanted to bring men together to be able to empower them, to uplift them, and to demonstrate to them the manner in which we can show up differently when we're positively self-expressed. And so I created a haka for a day that we call Anzac Day in Australia and New Zealand. We've got a very close connection. I'm originally from New Zealand but have lived in Australia for 30 years. Is that Anzac Day is a day that we commemorate from World War One, when there was a battle that took place in Turkey, and rightly or wrongly, probably rightly in the sense that we were going to another's land, that thousands and thousands of Australians and New Zealanders were slaughtered there and lost their lives. And so it's a day of commemoration, not a day of celebration that takes place for Anzac Day, but it's absolutely huge. And so in creating the Haka that we did that day, or the Haka was already created, but creating an event which we could come together, it really took on a life of its own and went viral on the internet. And so from there, it sort of it brought itself alive, Travis. And what I saw was an opportunity to continue something ongoingly. The following year, myself and a young Noongar man, Noongar are the traditional owners of the Perth area in Western Australia, the lower southwest area. We created the world's first Hakka and corroboree for an Anzac Day service. And so again, we got a lot of media exposure, and it started to grow. And inside of that, people were requesting cultural exchanges inside of the community. Part of that was for me to talk about mental health and emotional health. And so really those were the roots. from 2017, and it's just continued to grow. Where each year we participate also at the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. The LGBTIQA plus community suffer the highest rates of suicide. So for me, as a heterosexual man, I'm quite proud of the fact that I go to that parade, which is just an incredible parade every year out of Sydney. And we do lots of community engagements. I also travel in what we call the FIFO industry. It's the fly in, fly out industry, or the mining or offshore. Not that I've done any offshore stuff, but connected to companies that are and operate in the offshore realm. But, you know, a lot of flying around Australia and FIFO remote communities and corporate organisations to be able to talk to people about their mental health. And from that, you know, we've been able to grow and expand where our footprint here in Australia and New Zealand especially is definitely growing, and our awareness to be able to connect to the community, because there's just such a need for people that need mental and emotional support these days. And so that's, the sort of the backbone of Hakka for Life, is that it's an organisation that's continuing to grow, and we're going to make sure that we, expand our footprint and who we are and what we do in the world, so that we can, impact humanity in a positive manner.
Yeah, and you're doing such an amazing job. I've seen some of that media coverage that you shared through your Facebook page and things like this, and it is it's wonderful how simple it can be to really make a significant difference in these people's lives that you're able to impact through these different events and different things that you're doing to support mental health, to support like a sustainable mental health, the LGBTQ community. That's great that you're able to serve them. I like that you said being proud of yourself, because as a heterosexual man stepping into an arena like that, even though you're heterosexual, it's still an opportunity to learn, and it's an opportunity to still make a positive impact in just human life, like just at the foundation of everything, no matter what color you are wearing, or have or are. Underneath all of that, this is human life that you are protecting. This is mental health that you are serving, and that's a beautiful thing. So I had met you for the first time through a men's workshop with Jetty Azuma, and Jetty has a podcast, and it's great. What's the name of his podcast? Jetty Azuma. His podcast
Rising Man
is
podcast, the Rising
the
Man
Rising
podcast.
Man Movement. Yeah, the Rising Man podcast, the Rising Man Movement. So Jetty, like, such an amazing, genuine, authentic human being. I really enjoyed connecting with Jetty, and I had just discovered him on Instagram, something like that. And I had never been to a men's group, but I am a counselor. I'm my master's degree at the time. So this was in do you remember the year? Was it 2018 that we did that?
Yeah, 2019, 2019. I think,
2019,
yeah.
yeah. So 2018, 2019. So 2019, like the summer, we had gotten together and in LA, in near Long Beach, and we had I had joined this men's group. So I'm as a counselor, as a therapist, I was like, oh, I should work on my men's mental health and get involved and try to be a part of some of these men's groups and see what that's like. And so that was my first experience doing that with the Rising Man movement, with Jetty Azuma, and then the partnership with Haka for Life with you. And it was an incredible experience. I still remember the Haka. Recently, I was able to connect with one of the other brothers that was in that event. His name is Ben, and Ben the Bridge, and breath work with Ben. He's gone different. He's had some different names, but he's doing basketball retreats in Costa Rica. And so he moved down to Costa Rica since then, over the years, over these COVID years and stuff. Since then, he moved to Costa Rica. Recently, I had gotten the opportunity to visit him in Nosara, Costa Rica, and we had a podcast. We did a little. By the time this goes out, I will post some clips of us doing the Haka. We were trying to like remind each other like what the words were exactly and stuff. I was pretty confident that I had it down, and so it was amazing to still be able to connect with those brothers. It's amazing to be able to connect with you right now. Thank you so much. So I had saw this post recently that You had mentioned more talking spaces where men could speak about men's mental health awareness for the coming month of June. This will go out in June, and so for this month of men's mental health awareness, you had mentioned like we want to open up more spaces to have these conversations. What was besides being a man yourself and creating these spaces? Can you say more like what is on your heart about why those spaces are so valuable?
Yeah, look, I really think that there's a great opportunity for us as men to continue to expand the way that we communicate with each other. I don't think that we're always effective in the way that we express ourselves, particularly here in Australia. At this time, we've just had a terrible pattern of male violence, gender-based violence, unfortunately, where currently as it sits, I know there's a lot more people in America, but here in Australia, once every 4 days, there's a female being murdered by a man here in our country, and these are things that are just not a part of us being comfortable with the fabric of who we are as a society. It's not a true reflection, and it's something that I believe, and many others, which I'm grateful about, really believe that we need to transform that. And there's lots of discussion around the actions of men, the behaviours of men, the patterns of men, but also conversations about, hey, we need to really rewind the tape back a whole lot more, where we're targeting that. There were conversations about high school, then their primary school. I know some of the terms. I'm just going to speak how we speak down here, brother. I know that some people may not understand my
Like middle school,
my
high school,
okay.
totally get it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I'm learning myself as we go.
Yeah, no problem.
So there's conversations, around us sort of making sure that we do a whole lot of work with our younger boys, so that when they're growing into men, the types of behaviours that we want modelled and want to be able to see have sort of grown and in place, and then we're not going to see the types of things that are happening today. But it reminds me of a time when I sat down with my psychologist a few years back. It was going back down to about 2018. And I remember sitting down with my psychologist, and she spoke to me about the types of conversations that we create for our babies that enter the world. And it wasn't really a concept that I'd thought that far back about, the power of the types of conversations that someone is born into. And so for me, in relation to this conversation around men's mental health, or mental health for males as such, not for the want of better language and all of that sort of stuff, I'll use that term, but that we should be going so far back to the types of conversations that we are creating for our babies that are entering the world, to make sure that those conversations are powerful. So we're really rewinding the tape back. And I suppose if we want to go further, we can talk about maybe circles for the types of fathers, men that are about to be fathers or want to be fathers, the types of conversations that are created there. But essentially, a lot of the encouragement around us having more men's gathering groups and conversations, particularly in workplaces. Here in Australia, we have the highest household debt rates in the world, which is a thing that brings pressure. There's a lot of financial pressure here in Australia at this time, and right around the world, really, to be fair. And so that causes a whole lot of emotional and mental stress as well. So it's important for us to be able to create these conversations, and particularly, I'm pretty straight up in that, Trav, in the sense that the conversation around males' violence, particularly when you're sort of stepping in to talk about it, there's a lot of apprehension from people. They get scared even before they have it. That there's many people that immediately think that when we're talking about a conversation about men's violence, that it's going to be confrontational or adversarial. There's going to be tension. That there's possibly going to be violence that takes place in those conversations. And so I can see that and sense that, because I get to talk with thousands and thousands of men every year with the work that I do. And it's interesting, that's people's perceptions. And then what I see shows up is that people then don't have the conversation. It just becomes too hard. So we sort of bury our head in the sand, or we try and avoid it. We don't know how to go near it. Any time that we then see, a display of violence, especially if it's catastrophic, then people are coming in with their opinions about, hey, we need to really address this issue about men's violence and the way that men show up. But when the dust settled and there's an opportunity to have it, then people are still avoiding the fact of having those conversations. So for June, for me, I'm looking at opportunities where we can create the clearing for these conversations to take place here in Australia, and I know it's worldwide, but it's Men's Mental Health Week in the month of June. And so for me, there is no better opportunity for us to have those conversations. And if we're real, if we're fucking real about who we are and what we say that we do, then we're going to step ourselves into those uncomfortable zones and have those conversations. And as I say, I keep reiterating to people that they're conversations, not confrontations.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I mean, and I'm assuming here or asserting to a degree just based upon your background and your, professional, employment status, and that um, as long as the setting's right for men, it's incredible what can show up for men. So, part of us having these conversations is making sure that the types of settings that we're creating for men is really, really important, because if the setting isn't right, if the situation isn't right, then of course we're going to get situations where they're confrontational, and these engagements. And so what we need to be doing is really sharing the knowledge. Part of this and these conversations, why I love being connected to these conversations, is because this gives people insight into how they might facilitate these conversations, or who they may go to or lean on to get knowledge about how we have these conversations. But one thing that I'm absolutely clear on is that this is unavoidable. We as men have to learn to communicate better. We have to, to learn to change our behavioural patterns, the way that we act and that we react. And there's a whole lot of work. And I say that without blame. It's not a thing of blame or anything like that, because it's sort of the old monkey see, monkey do pattern in life, where we only do what we've been taught to do or what we've seen to do. And so there's a lot of healing that has to take place for men, and there's a lot of transformation, and there's a lot of change too, as well, where there's things that we can just change immediately. So, that's why I'm really, really passionate about it, especially June. No matter where we are in the world, I think it's a great time and a great place to be able to start these conversations.
Not only does your passion come through, but your hours and time and investment spent on thinking of these things. You mentioned all these different age groups, all these different transitionary periods, these periods of rites of passage in men's lives, or whether they're becoming a parent, or they're graduating, or they're going on to primary school, or it's in their occupations, going into their workplace. And men are in all of those places. And so these are the communities, these are the groups, these are the spaces that need to be facilitated, to have conversations that are like you said, not like reluctant, not abrasive, not feeling like this is going to be too uncomfortable to engage in. It's got to be like it will. It's not always it's not perfectly comfortable. It can be very uncomfortable. And that makes me think of like what you just said about the finances, just all over the world, financial pressures for men, and all kinds of things. Men take on a lot of responsibility in the world, and all of that pressure is going to result in some sort of expression. And we want those expressions to be healthy expressions, and they only are healthy in connection and engagement with other men if you have the experience of speaking together, of coming together and having conversations, and getting it off of your chest, and being vulnerable to see that other men are experiencing the same things as you. There's some experience since that moment. I've had several times. I've had a handful of times. I've had an opportunity to be in groups with other men, and it is astonishing how many men in this world have never been around, a group of 10 or more men, and that's a small number, 10 or more men, and it's just men just talking about men's things, just talking about the pressures of being a man, or struggles, or opportunities, or successes, or enjoying the space together as men. So many people. And then some of these experiences, I had the opportunity of being in a group of 100 men, or more than that. And that's like it's such an incredible feeling to be around, and it's just focused on the health and well-being of the men in that group. And you are shoulder to shoulder, you're in support of each other. There's really very little spaces like that that you just organically experience in the world. So it has to be intentionally created. And so I love that you are doing so much to intentionally create those spaces.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And what comes to mind is, and the thing that I love is that, we're talking about when there's violence or negative, I suppose, characteristics that we display as men. But when we bring them together and realign them powerfully, sort of what shows up. And when you're in those men's group with 100, 1,000, or whatever they are, is that when they're aligned and they're positively self-express, the power and the expression and the healing that takes place inside of those circles or gatherings, and the impact and the effect that it leaves men with, it really, really is an uplifting thing, as opposed to the negative sort of patterns at times that show up. So there's value in us bringing men together, and aligning them. There's definitely a lot of healing. I believe personally that the healing of humanity lies in the healing of men. And there's been, such a huge drive to empower women for many, many different reasons over the years. And I think that women have grown exponentially, in the last 2 and 3 decades. I mean, they've gone so far. They're so empowered that they speak up, they speak out, they stand, they get the opportunity to show up in society in many, many different ways where historically they weren't able to. And that's just going to continue to grow. But what I've seen on the male side of things is that there's a big gap, and there's particularly a gap in relation to the manner in which we communicate, the way in which we're sharing ourselves emotionally and mentally. Still a lot of work to be able to do. And at the end of the day, as you say, we've just got to create change to do it. There's no use thinking about it. There's no use hoping for it. And that's why I've got so much respect for men and for women and for people that are out there just creating opportunities for men to be able to show up differently, to be able to acknowledge and see that even men have experienced, severe cases of violence as well. For me as a kid, I grew up in a home where my dad used to beat the fuck out of me, man, like severely, next level stuff. And I know that's an experience for many, many men. And even in the conversations that I've had, I've spoken with growing men that still harbour that resentment and that anger and that hate, which is all things that I had in my teenage years towards my dad. And they still harbour that as growing men, and they display it in different ways to different people, whether it be inside of their, intimate relationships or in their friendship circles. Sometimes it just takes, the right ingredients to come out. There might be a good person sober, yet we introduce alcohol, or if there's drugs or something that are present, then all of a sudden there's a change and a manifestation of a person that you didn't see. Other people are more forthright and outright in the way that they display themselves, but there's certainly, an opportunity for us to cause healing and to get men used to being around men. I recall a session that I was doing on a mining site, and I had 2 men. They were 6'5". They were big men, and I do an eye gazing. Exercise. You probably know it, and many people that watch this would know that. But it's a great way to connect, because especially with men, at different times, as you know, Trav, just eye contact in itself, it's a huge thing in my Indigenous culture, my Māori culture, about eye contact, the impact and the effect that can have. But that sort of applies anywhere as men. You make eye contact at the wrong time, in the wrong place, in the wrong situation, it can have catastrophic effects. I got these men, this was in a neutral setting, we're in a workplace, we'd had a great conversation, and it was really there to connect. I could see that at times when I work with groups, sometimes we'll do this eye-gazing exercise because it deepens their connection, but also for groups that sort of say to me, hey, we're really connected, and I can see that they're disconnected, we'll do this eye-gazing thing. And so we did it, and I remember these 2 men, one man's just gazing straight at this guy, just ready, he's relaxed, and this other big guy kept looking down. And he kept looking down, and I, just encouraged him, hey, make eye contact. And I remember him, the guy that was looking down, he took this big breath, and he sort of readied himself as if he was going to go into battle, and he stared intently at the guy in front of him. And once we had done the exercise and completed it, I asked them to share, and I said to him, hey, brother, what was there for you? And he immediately got emotional inside of his workplace, and what he shared was, he said, it reminded me of my dad. When my dad used to say to me, you fucking look at me, boy, you're nothing. You fucking look at me because you're nothing. And he said, I've harboured this my whole life. And you just wouldn't know, because he was such a lovely guy. He was a friendly guy. You can see he's a big man. And often people don't understand the realisation that there are men that are really dealing with these factors and things that are taking place. That if we were to rewind the take back to that young boy whose dad is probably likely 6'5" or 6'6" or something around there, where this man who's bigger than the average person in the room just couldn't even look at another man, or he thought that, looking at him was going to be an adversarial thing. He still harboured these experiences as a kid. And that's why I say, there's the healing of humanity lies in the healing of men. And I can't diminish that man's experience or anything and say, hey, you're big, you're a man now, you're grown. Why are you carrying on like this? The fact is that there are people whose circuit boards in life, emotional circuit boards in life, have been impacted and damaged. And I know that first and foremost because of the therapy that I've done with my psychologist and sitting down and the modalities that I've tried to see and reflect upon things. As I say, when you asked me at the start of the show here, how have you been? I know how I've been because I've done the work to be able to reflect and to know and understand. Shit, on this day, I need to talk to somebody, or on this day, we got to get up and do some exercise, old boy. We got to drink some water. And this is all part of me being able to learn and understand myself, and then having people that I could talk to about how I've been feeling and what's been going on, which for me, in the past, I didn't have those structures. I was stuck in my head trying to work things out so much. And, you touched on it earlier, Trav, about the expectations of men. There's so much pressure that we take on because we're problem solvers and we're doers. And, that's a part of us in our wiring that we're really effective at. But the other part at times is I think that and this is societal pressure today too as well, which I think has existed for a long time, where there's societal expectations about men and women at particular ages, or in particular positions or particular backgrounds that you come from, that we put a whole lot of internal pressure on ourselves and we just become stuck in here. And I'm always a huge encourager about us, coming from out of our head out here to be able to talk, to have these conversations. For me, then in sharing, to listen to you, to hear that, from the things that you share, I can learn and understand new insights to be able to take things on so that I can show up differently in life. But there's so much opportunity. I won't say work as in that we've got to do work. I think there's an opportunity for men in the world and for our communities and society to be able to create opportunities where we can continue having conversations like this.
And oftentimes it's not just work, it's opportunity. Oftentimes getting into those groups, it's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
really enjoyable. At the end of the day, like you're having a good time hanging out with other dudes and having a good time, and playing and just enjoying the company of one another. It's not all these sour emotions and trauma and sadness. It's also a lot of fun to just be hanging out with your peers. I love what you were saying about the stories that people get trapped with. So much of our lives is tied to these entanglements of narrative and stories that we have, that we're not always so conscious of. We're pulling them and dragging them along from our childhood. I had I had been a therapist at an organization called Piece It Together. Peace, like peace, it together. And this organization had teen domestic and family violence intervention programs for adolescents, men and women, but I only worked with the men's groups. So I had two groups twice a week that I would work with. These are groups of adolescent boys between the ages of 13 and 19, and they are on probation for criminal offenses of violence of some sort. It could have been all kinds of things. There was all kinds of stories, but it was a psychoeducation group on what is violence, and speak having this space to speak about your emotions and the conflicts that you've been getting into during the week, and having exercises to journal about those conflicts and strategies for resolving those conflicts in a non-violent way, and working all of this psychoeducation content and information. And for these kids, this was maybe the most important class of their lives. They're in high school and stuff, and they're doing math and science and English and social studies. I really like English. The opportunity to write and journal and articulate yourself, that's powerful. That's really important. But a class on emotional intelligence is not in a great majority, 95% of all education programs don't have an emotional intelligence class. And the way that this was structured, even though the context was that they had to do this class for 6 months in order to satisfy their probationary agreement with the law. Otherwise, they were maybe going to go to juvenile hall or some sort of detention center, or worst case scenario, they go to an adult jail at a teenage age, or maybe a prison, if depending on the different degrees of violence that was involved in their case. But to have these opportunities to come together was the most valuable thing, the most valuable offering in their lives. I recently was able to connect with one of these kids. I ended up seeing him in passing, and he recognized me by my voice, so he was able to he just connected with we built a rapport because of a common experience, violence, and just knowing that we've been through things. It's really important to be in groups of people and recognize that, like, we've all been through things. It's not this has only happened to me. Building rapport that way is really powerful. But I spoke to this young man, and this was still and I'm maybe 6 years later, this was still one of the most impactful things that he has done in his life. Now he just graduated his master's degree and is going on to be a lawyer. That shifted. That's a great shift in what his potential trajectory could have been. So it's amazing the significance that these spaces can make on people's lives.
Yeah, you're so right. What I love about what you shared is that it's a program over a length of time. And the reason why that's so important is because it's great to acknowledge that it's not one conversation doesn't fix everything. When we've been hardwired and emotionally wired the way that we have been from our experiences in life, hey, it takes work to be able to undo things. I'm moving close to the half-century mark in life now, and I just see and still learn every single day that there's stuff for me emotionally to understand and to learn about myself, to learn and to know about others. So the fact that it's not just recognizing, which is such an important piece of this puzzle that we're trying to cause healing with, is that it's not just one conversation. And not only that, it takes work from anybody that wants to take that on to transform their own lives. And I say that because so that we disappear it being somebody else's responsibility, e.g., hey, the program that they created wasn't quite the program that we wanted, or what wasn't something that really was a fit for me or anything that I could take on and take away. It's like, hey, man, you got a responsibility, and this is where I'm saying that we need to expand the way that we communicate as men and the way that we show up. All of those things, whatever program that we're connected to or whatever it is that we're choosing to do, is an opportunity for us to actually be something different than to what we are. If you're a person that has a propensity to not talk and to internalize, like most human beings do, we sit there and, what did you think of that? Internally we're thinking, I think that shit, but externally we go, oh, it's really great, thanks. And then how people tell you that they feel about things, that next time that there's a gathering, they just don't show up. And so some people's I've learned in life that some people's no is that they say yes and then don't show up, in life. And so it's a great opportunity for us to take this practice on of really talking. And I think that's got to do with societal constructs of upbringings. We look at our parents and our grandparents. You don't speak up to people. You don't speak to people in authority. You don't speak disrespectfully to people that are trying to give you something. When really, when I look back at the way those constructs have been created in life and a communication sense for us as human beings to function in, they're not the most effective ways for us to be. In fact, they can be so detrimental that I believe that our societal conditioning causes us a whole lot of a mental and emotional strain as well too. So in those settings where we're creating programs or opportunities for these conversations to take place, what we're essentially doing too is we're training the verbal muscles, our ability to be able to emotionally regulate when we're getting triggered about somebody that might be saying something. In these group settings, that's why I love it, is that you get so many different perspectives and points of views, different experiences from life that are all in one room. And sometimes in hearing things, we can be triggered by things. And depending on the emotional trigger that we're experiencing, the manner in which we then converse inside of that conversation or even contribute to it can be quite adversarial in itself. So it's a great opportunity for us to to regulate, particularly as men in those group settings, to see that we can have conversations like this. And one of the things that I remember on my journey of self-development is I had a friend that was a part of a self-development course that I did for 2 years. He was 6'6". He's a big man. But one of the things that always sticks with me is that I never ever saw that man use his height or his size in a demeaning manner towards any person, and particularly against females. Even in conversation, he was very aware, and I've never forgotten that from my friend. He's still a great friend, and he's just has a way and a meaning of, even when things were quite intense, and there were times when, traditionally you'd see people speak the way that they were engaging with him, that they might lash out. I've definitely experienced men that size and even bigger when they're struggling emotionally or verbally inside of a conversation, and they start using their size and, stand over you. He never ever did it. And, so I've seen that as an example that it's absolutely possible, no matter what situation and circumstance, for us to have, clear, healthy conversations. That's not to say that that anger won't show up, or people don't get passionate or pissed off about things that they might share. There's always still room for passion, but I think the greatest overriding thing is to ensure that there's always respect inside of a space. We can, powerfully disagree, but the minute that we don't have respect in that circle, it goes pear-shaped, or it goes south, I don't know, or goes wrong. I don't know what expression you use in America, brother, but that's a saying that we have here in Australia.
The communication is not just how you are expressing yourself in that space and expressing your story and letting people know like this is what you've been through, but also listening to your fellow brothers, listening to the other men in that group is such a powerful role in those spaces. Communication is two ways. It's not just speaking, it's not just articulating yourself, but it's also can you sit and what are you listening to? A lot of times in conversation and just walk by conversation or just these conversations that pop up, we are not really listening to other people. We're waiting to speak and verbalize what we want to articulate in the world, and we're not really listening to them. So in those spaces, it's like what are you listening to? Listen not only to the things that person is saying, but there's underneath the surface of all of that, there is something to be listened to as well. What are they feeling? What in and this is coming from like work with nonviolent communication. It's like when people are emotionally charged about something, they're angry, they're emotionally charged because things are not going the way that they want them to be going in their lives for whatever reason, and they're met with somebody else that is just communicating back to them what they are, it's just a fight back and forth, expressing why each person is uncomfortable, but neither of them are listening to I understand, I'm hearing the discomfort in your voice, I'm hearing the I'm hearing the fear. I'm hearing the fear and the concern and the worry for a dangerous situation, or for the unfairness in these circumstances that you're facing in your life right now. Can you hear that when you're in that role in those conversations? Is so important.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because I think that many people actually don't listen to, when you use the expression, "What are you listening to?" I think that from the work that I've done and talking to people, what I see is that people listen through. They're not listening to, they're listening through. And by that I mean they listen through their experiences in life. They listen through their past. They listen through their interactions with people that might look a particular way or come from a different, particular cultural background or something like that. And so quite often we're listening through, and if our state of mind isn't one where it's positive, then the way that we listen is through a negative filter. It's through a judgmental filter. So in actual fact, you're right. Quite often in those states that people are there thinking that listening is waiting for you to say what you've got to say so I can say what I'm about to say. And so people don't train that muscle, that emotional muscle, that listening muscle of being able to sit and listen. Hey, what is it that they're truly saying here? Now we're listening through our filter to assess. And this is, I would assert to a degree again, for people that are watching this podcast, they're doing that immediately. It's quite often a thing that we do as human beings. We listen through filters where, and there's nothing wrong with it at times, but it's to know and understand when it's serving you and when it's not serving you. To really get present to the fact that, hey, at times we might even have to interrupt the person that's talking to say that, hey, I'm not listening. Actually, it's over here with me. Give me a couple of seconds. I just want to recalibrate and make sure that I'm present with you. I might have to turn my phone off. I might have to, put a few things away. I might have to do this job and things like that, so that I can really be present in what it is that you're listening to. And I think it goes back to my point too, Travis, especially when we're creating these gatherings for men, when we're looking at men's behavioural change and men's behavioural patterns, is it's so important that the setting is right. It becomes so important for us to establish things. I see a lot of my work that one of the most powerful things that facilitators can do, or people can do in relation to sort of creating spaces of conversation or engagement, is that you do the work at the front of any session, where you're making sure that that space and the vibration. One of the things that I always focus on for any room that I go into is that I use an expression, I shape the listening in the room. And part of that is because that there's so many different energies and experiences and point of views and different listenings that are in the room, that at different times, you can walk into a room and feel things at a vibrational level where you can connect and you can move into things powerfully. And at different times, which can be a lot of times actually, it's sort of up and down. We've got to make sure that we get the flow and the vibration right. So at times, we've got to spend a bit longer with the group to be able to make sure that we're all on the same vibrational page, and so that our frequencies connecting, our listening's connected, as much as possible anyway, with the knowing and understanding that people are listening through many things, not necessarily to. So we want to be able to get them in a state where we're relaxed, it's a non-threatening environment, it's a non-confrontational environment. Hey, I'm connected to the person next to me, so that I'm not disconnected, wondering, sitting in a session thinking, what's this person's background? Are they judging me? And these are sort of all the internal dialogues that people are dealing with. And that's why I say we're listening through. So if we're able to have the ability to calm that, to connect people, then they listen a whole lot differently. And from there, that's where we start to cause, transformation in people and healing and learning. I'm listening to Travis's example of what he's been through in life. And you're so right, we've all been through stuff. Right? I share my experiences in life, knowing that, man, I've got friends and I've met so many people that I am astounded about how they are able to even function as a human being through some of the things that they've been through. Just, it would break me. Strong as I am as a man, and as resilient as I am, I look at people and I'm just astounded by some of the things that they've been through, and then the types of people that they're able to show up in life, to contribute to humanity. So there's just, again, I think it just sort of reiterates the fact that conversations like this and ones that involve a whole lot more men or women, and that are definitely powerful opportunities for us.
It's so true that so often as a therapist, I've often heard people come to me and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to believe this story that I have." In a very general way, you're not going to believe the pain that I'm suffering and this story that I have. But when you meet, tens of hundreds of people that are all coming to you with that same thing, you realize, it's unique to you. Your story, your trauma, your damage, the context and the unfair circumstances that you're facing right now in your life, it's unique to you. And we all have some unique adversity and challenges and obstacles and obstructions in our lives that keep us from being able to get to where we're trying to go. They keep us disconnected from others, things like this. So it is really helpful to know that, like, a lot of us have dark stories. We have a dark side to our experience. I want to also say that's such a good expression. People are hearing through and not, or listening through and not listening to. So the listening through to me is just like hearing the words. And so as long as you are only hearing the sounds that are coming out of my voice, then you are staying in your frequency. It's like, and then it like ties to that trying to find the common frequency in the room or in the space. It's like, between two people, how do we find this common frequency so that we can have a good connection, a good back and forth, so that we can stay on the same line and in this communication channel, so we can stay on the same channel. Well, I can't just hear the words that you are saying, because that'll keep me in my frequency and you in your frequency. And if I am listening, and that is like the listening through. I'm listening through your frequency. I'm not trying to match it. I'm not trying to be where you are. I'm not trying to be where I am. I'm in my head. I'm in my thinking space, and I'm just trying to let that be the obstruction to our channel of communication. But if I'm listening to you, now I'm dropping in. Now I'm centered. Now I'm grounded. Now I am making adjustments that are tuning to the common frequency so that we can find this common channel of communication. Now I'm listening. It's not just the words, the sounds that are coming out of my mouth. It is also the message. It's also the emotions. It's also the experience behind all that. It's also knowing that there's a many years before and after that are informing this communication. This human being has a real human experience, just like you and I have a real human experience. And if I'm listening to them, not through them, then I can match that frequency. I can come into alignment and listen and be there as a true provider of a service to them by just being a listener, a true listener. So few of our relationships, generally in life, so few of our relationships are characteristically described or are characteristic of true listening, of unconditional positive regard for the person that you're listening to, just being just a listener. It's so powerful to just be that, and it's so simple, and it seems, if you aren't experiencing that on a semi-regular basis, then it might lose its, you might lose sort of the understanding of just how valuable that is, because it sounds so surface. But that surface listening is hearing. That surface listening is listening through that person. But true, centered, grounded, unconditional listening to another person, it can heal people.
Yeah, and I think the power of being present in the now definitely impacts that as well too, particularly as men. There's no other place to be but here. There's nothing to worry about in these gatherings of men, and this is where the power lies. And that the greatest opportunity for transformation has always been here with ourselves, not out there in the world, not necessarily in our past or with others. The greatest opportunity for transformation has always been here with us. So if I can transform the way that I am and the way that I show up, then I can transform the manner in which I listen, my state of being, the type of contribution that I can be, the type of impact that I can have in life. And and it's a learned thing, and that's why it's again, I'm pointing back to that program that you were sharing earlier, that you're a part of, is that this is not a one-stop conversation. It's not a one-stop shop. It doesn't happen through one conversation. It's through repetition. It's through connecting to different sorts of conversations that we have to have in life. And you touch on a great point about the power of listening. I've just had that this past week for a couple of friends, one male and one female, and just listening to them. They go through things in life, and they both messaged and just said, thanks so much. One said, thanks so much for listening to me vent. And the other one was, thanks so much for just listening to me share about what it is that I'm going through in life right now. And, the ability to be able to listen powerfully has to do with one's ability to transform themselves as well, because a lot of people can't be with themselves. So if you have a tendency to not even be able to be with yourself and your own thoughts, you've got negative self-talk going on, you're self-critical in any manner, then it makes it really, really hard for you to be able to sit and listen to others.
That's sort of like it's a receptive listening. It's like, can I receive something outside of myself? And if I can't, then I'm actually really uncomfortable with myself, because I feel like these external influences are somehow going to interrupt this kind of like this like comic strip that is my life. This movie that is my life is going to be interrupted, and gonna, because I'm going to be made uncomfortable, because this external thing is going to somehow get into me. And it's this defensive thing, it's this non-receptive thing. But this receptive listening, then I can, then my boundary is healthy. It's not a rigid boundary, nothing, don't let anything in, but it's a healthy boundary of like, some things can, I can receive things without it becoming a part of me, and I can be there to receive for somebody else, just for the good of somebody else, for the good of somebody else's mental health. It's so valuable. I want to mention this thing as well. So when we met at the Haka event in Long Beach, we were joined. It was all of the men in the group. It was Jetty. It was you. It was also a great brother, Jamie Schuster, and I had such a like I'm already feeling like the goosebumps of this a little bit. I had such an authentic like, and this is speaking to how amazing Jamie is that he is such an authentic, genuine light. Just such an amazing way of being genuine and self-expressed in the world in the times of these spaces. At least I only had a few exchanges with him, but I remember that after that Haka event, the group of us hung out together. So that was a part of it. Was I was like, oh well,
Yeah.
we're already connected in that way. So we continued to hang out. We went to the dinner. We went to the beach. At nighttime, and I just want to say, rest in power, rest in peace, Jamie Schuster. And it's so important. It brings us, full circle back to that very first question about just asking our brothers, like genuinely, how are you? Because even the people that are leading these groups and things, maybe some of the people that are watching this are therapists and scientists, or maybe they're leading men's groups or things like this, and they're always reaching out and offering a helping hand to others, and they're always there for other people. But then it is so important that you have a circle of people where you are also being, it's somebody reaching out to you saying, hey, how are you, Travis? How are you, Leon? How's it going, brother? I'm just checking in with you. Just having a group of people that can just check in with you. Our brother Jamie. Do you want to say something about Jamie?
Oh yeah, hey, you're so right. Rest in peace, as we say down here, down under, for our brother.
Yeah.
One thing that I know that was one of the greatest experiences that he experienced in life for both himself and myself, coming to Santa Monica and creating that day for the crew at the invitation of our brother Jetty Azuma. It was one of the most incredible days, and you're right. I remember us going to eat afterwards, and I remember the meals in America being extremely expensive.
Well, that's Long Beach. That's Santa Monica. That's why they're extremely expensive.
I
Yeah.
can't believe that. And then us catching up afterwards and really staying connected. I mean, the power and the impact of Jamie's effect on humanity is still in existence today. We're still connected. We're still connected with Brother Jetty. I'll say that actually, we're planning right now for us to return back to America. I'm in conversations now with Jetty about us creating a
Beautiful.
Hakka to come back up there next year, actually, back to America, which is something
Oh,
that we've tried to
awesome.
do so many times, but COVID impacted and affected our ability to be able to get back. And Jamie
Right.
wanted to be a big, huge part of that, and coming back up there. And unfortunately, won't be with us physically, but spiritually and emotionally, he'll definitely be with us. When I look back on, Jamie's passing, what I see is that it's so important for us to create more of these conversations and more of these opportunities to really delve into what it is that men are dealing with. For me, I had and I'll use my experience in the sense that I had an experience of sexual abuse growing up over a period of years. And one thing that I've come to learn is that undoing the emotional and mental impact and even physical impact on that takes years and years. As I say, I'm touching close to the half century mark, and I still see things inside of myself as powerful as I can show up in life. There's other areas in life where at times I emotionally struggle, and what I've been sitting back and assessing, hey, what's sort of showing up? It goes back to those childhood experiences. And Jamie is an example of that too. Childhood experiences that have impacted and affected us. And this is why it becomes so important for the types of settings, the types of circles, the types of things that we're creating for men to ultimately open up. And that applies to women as well too. But here's one thing is that it really has to take a transformation for each individual person. That's why I say the greatest opportunity for transformation is here with me as a person. There's also to acknowledge in Jamie's passing that we all struggle, no matter how powerful we are. And you're so right, Trav, and the type of man that Jamie was, and in his helping hand. I saw him help thousands of people with the work that we did together. And you know, at his passing, there were thousands of people that messaged, and there's people that have worked with him that expressed how many times that he just helped people, helped and helped and helped people. And you're so right for people that will watch this, because you've got a great circle of people that are in there empowering humanity, that we always must take stock of where we're at, if we're those people that are out there leading or causing or creating these opportunities for other people to be able to speak into, and to know powerfully that we've got to put our hands up on some days and say, hey, I might need someone to talk to, hey, I might need a break, hey, I can't fucking do this. And I say that intentionally because that's the sort of the scale of life where we get at. At times there'll be people that are watching this now that know, actually, fuck, I've got to put my hand up here. I'm struggling a bit. You know, I've really got to take 5. And the reason why it's so important is it's no use us telling others to practice that when we don't apply it ourselves, because I've got so much great admiration and respect for people that have the courage to stand out in front and cause it and create this, because it takes something to generate so many things, you know, whether they be conversations, retreats, whatever it is that we're trying to cause as a positive influence for humanity, as opposed, and this is not to diminish others that come in behind it, but those people at the front that are holding that space. It can be a lonely place to be. You know, we can internalize ourselves a lot, you know, in relation to what it is that we're struggling with. These societal constructs that exist, you know, in our being or our identity about, hey, I've done this for so long, I'm a counsellor with a master's degree, I should know the answer to this conversation because this is who I say that I am. And what I've seen is that we simply don't. We've got to be clear with the fact that even for me, I don't know everything, and I'm all good with it, because what it allows me to see and to do is to connect with people like yourself, Jerry Azuma. You know, I love watching Preston Smiles is another man that I love watching because of just where he thinks from, and it's totally outside of places and spaces where I would think at times. And so
Preston's
it's great
great.
for us not to know everything. You know, I'm all good with that. But you know, when we put ourselves in the lane, when we're functioning emotionally and mentally and physically right, and we're on point, we're powerful, and our vibration is there. Fuck, man, the impact is incredible. You know, it can change and transform lives forever. So I think we have a responsibility for each other in love, to be able to make sure, like you say, hey man, check in. And it's funny that you say that. One of the conversations I had with a girlfriend of mine this week was around, hey, how often are you talking to your children? My children are everything to me. And I realized, actually, I talk more, especially in this causing and creating phase where I'm on the opposite side of the country, establishing a network in a different city, is that a lot of my energy is out there with people and phone calls and meetings and whatnot, when the most important thing to me in my world are my children and my grandson. And so if I'm not connected there with them and knowing what's going on in their world, then I'm not going to be as effective as what I need to be up there. The most important place for me to be effective is in my family. I've got 2 sons and 2 daughters. I want to make sure that that balance of who they are and how they show up in life is as healthy and as powerful that it can possibly be, so that the legacy that we leave. When I look down at my 2-year-old grandson, when we're talking about these conversations about how we transform, you know, men's behaviours, men's behavioural patterns, so that the work and the legacy is done. Where one thing that I'm proud of, and I've had a conversation with my daughter about, is that we've broken the cycle of domestic violence inside of our family, be that physically, emotionally, psychologically, or verbally. You know, that's been broken inside of our house, and my children living with me. And part of that in my past was I was the cause of that. You know, I look at my parents and my grandparents and others in society, and the types of places and spaces that I've been and come from, is that was something that was evident. So those things have been disappeared now, simply through the manner in which we show up, the way that we heal things, the way that we vibrationally operate, and you know, leave ourselves open to listening instead of listening to and not through things. And really, at times, you know, putting my hand up to know and understand I don't know everything, and also at times I can be the arsehole in the room. You know, we're so good as human beings at pointing out the wrongs of others and what others do to us and how others make us feel, or what's wrong over there, but we never powerfully look at ourselves to know that, hey man, there's been times in my life where I've been the arsehole in the room, or the, what do you say in America, the jerk off, or something like that.
Sure.
You know,
The
so,
asshole. We say asshole too.
asshole. Oh, asshole. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I've been the asshole or the prick, as we say down here. But anyway, you know what it is. My point is that I can be the one that's the one having a negative impact inside of that room. And so there's, you know, the opportunity for me to acknowledge that, to recognise that, to reconcile that at different times, and then the opportunity to show up differently. And that's the place and the space there where, particularly as men, when we're entering these conversations, as you know, and in life, there's an expectation that I think the greatest thing that men are really connected to is being our word. As men, there's power in a man being his word. If a man's not his word, he ain't nothing. For many, many people. And even at times when I'm not my word, that's the biggest thing that really upsets me, is when I can't keep my word, or if I don't keep my integrity. These are things that really, really matter to me. So if we can get men connected to that, who you say you are is actually who you are, and then go forth and living that manner is a direct reflection of the impact and the way that you can show up in life and the effect that you'll have on people.
Yeah, it's so powerful to have the integrity of a man to show up with his word. You said just a bunch of beautiful things that are so important, so powerful in people's lives. I love all those brothers. Whether Ben the Bridge, Jetty Azuma, Preston Smiles, Sanika the Fire Starter. Jamie is going to live in my heart forever. He lives in all of our hearts. Thank you so much, Leon. Thank you for showing up and being a part of this conversation, and just continuing to show up in your integrity. And you're a powerful man because of all the influence that you're having and impacting others, and to know that we are all just human. We are all human. Maybe we are the asshole in the room. Maybe we don't know everything. Maybe we are really good at projecting the pains that we are experiencing, and the inconsistencies and the insecurities of ourselves onto others. It's really important to humanize, normalize, understand that about ourselves. And if you are a coach, a counselor, a therapist, a scientist, a group leader, a facilitator, whatever you are out there, if you are leading the pack, it's just so important to maybe ask somebody to reach out to you. Ask somebody to ask you if you are okay. Get some people in your circle that are also going to be there to support whatever you're doing and wherever you're at emotionally, the same way as you maybe are suggesting or facilitating or encouraging other men and other groups of people to have. And this goes for men and women. This goes for all humanity, all human beings, for your own mental health, for the well-being and the ultimate optimization of your mental health. You need people that are also asking you, hey, how are you? How are you doing? I had recently been thinking about that a lot, and I reached out to some people and I asked them, hey, if you could just ask me once in a while, just ask me, how are you doing, Travis? Because Travis is doing a lot of stuff. I take on the leadership role in a lot of communities, in a lot of spaces, and it would be great to have you just ask me, how are you doing? And it's so valuable to remind yourself to do that with your friends, with your brothers, with your family members, with the people around you. So I think during this conversation, men, women alike, all of the people that are listening, all the listeners here are definitely going to receive so much value and understanding that the importance of these conversations and the value that they have in the overall mental health and integrity of men and people in their lives. So thank you so much, Leon, for doing this. And man, I'd be happy to do this again. When you're in America, I'm there. Like wherever you're at, I'm there. We're Hakkaing, or we're just talking, or we're just hanging out. Whatever it is, I'm there. Let me know. And I'm excited to hear more about the things that you'll be doing in life. Is there anywhere that you would like people to connect with you, or your information, or Haka for Life, or all of those things?
Yeah, we're at Hakka for Life on Facebook. I know that's getting a bit old and obsolete. I get reminded about that, but we're on Instagram and TikTok as well too. We're still doing great work with our team, so you can grab us online. Those are probably the most powerful places to be able to follow us in, and I'm really excited. I don't want to step past the opportunity, brother, of saying to you, and this is a great example of us sort of interrupting the societal constructs of how we think even conversations should be structured, and go, how are you? is what I want to ask you. And
Thank
this is
you.
a great real life example of not just saying it for the sake of saying it, but realizing when you were talking earlier, should I haven't asked the brother? Now here's the opportunity, and it's a great practice because this is what it looks like in real life in front of us. So, Brother
Yeah.
Trav, how are you? You sound to me
Yeah.
like you're very busy, and some of it makes you a little bit tired.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And I love having that real world example. I'm doing okay. You know, sometimes I'm really frustrated. I have a lot of irons in the fire. Sometimes my plate is really full. Sometimes I am, worried about the progress and wanting to be successful in my life so that I can be confident in being able to hold the space for other people. Just like can I really have a relationship? Could I have a wife and children? And I'm 32 years old, so I'm also thinking like, so when am I going to be in a place where I'm comfortable to start moving in that direction, or have I already started moving in that direction? Am I doing everything that I need to do to help my mom? My mom doesn't live near me, so when she's going through struggles or other people are going through struggles, I feel like, oh, I'm so far away. So all of those things, and then I'm doing my dissertation. So I'm trying to complete this doctoral work that has been weighing on me. And people will ask me, "Oh, how's your dissertation going?" And I'm like, quit asking that question. And I'm trying to get it all done, and just it can be hard work to actualize and transform into your best self, and you're doing that for the service of other people. And sometimes you have to take time to focus on yourself, but it doesn't mean that you have to be completely isolated. You can still reach out, you can still have your friends, you can still have brothers that will support you, because isolation is a lot of times that can be very poisonous to the mental health of people's lives. And so I'm doing, with all of that, I'm still blessed. I still have so many blessings in my life. I do. I love my mother. I love my friends. I love the people around me. I love the people that support. And I live in a good space. I'm happy with the direction I'm going and the goals. And I'm so appreciative of this conversation, because this can be so authentic, and this conversation is so nourishing to me. So thank you for asking me how I am. Thank you, Leon. I really appreciate it.
No worries, brother. If you'd allow me to acknowledge you just as an observer and a brother and a friend, I would say to you that you're doing fucking fantastic in life. I just want to acknowledge you and honour you for giving me the opportunity to speak on your platform and to speak into a place in America, which I've always had dreams of coming to do things there. And so, I always love our brother Jetty. I mean, our connection is still strong today. For the opportunity to come to America, I want to return there. Funny thing is, in June, I've just had the Landmark Self-Development Organisation reach out to me just yesterday, and they're going to be interviewing me on June the 30th. Actually, we're going to be doing a live event up there in America. I'll be here in Australia. I might be sitting right in this particular room, actually, but I'll be having that conversation. But it means a lot for me personally, for the fact that you're so committed to being who you choose to be in life. And again, what I hear when you're sharing is, I hear me. Man, I've got so many irons in the fire. I'm busy here. I'm frustrated here. It's that's working. That's not working. I was hoping that's going to play out and play on. All the questions. Is this going to happen in life? And so, what I want to share with you is that the things that you're going through are exactly the same things that I am. And when you take stock of life and have a look at, hey, are there any measurables that I could see that give me an indicator? Am I on a path of who I want to be? What I want to say to you, my brother, is that we connected 5 years ago. Since I've been up there in America. 2019 it was when we got the opportunity to come and connect, and we're still connected today. We still reach out and comment on different things, on social media, and that's because you choose to show up a particular way, and you're choosing to contribute to humanity. And these are opportunities where we can acknowledge men, because quite often as men, we just do shit because of the fact that we just do it. Quite often we've been told we don't seek validation. You certainly don't blow your own trumpet. and you don't tell people about what it is that you do. You allow others to acknowledge you in life. I think there's an opportunity for both, because it can be self-defeatist when we're not loving ourselves and acknowledging ourselves to where we're at in life. So again, I just want to acknowledge you and say, man, you're doing some things, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so honoured to be able to be on your platform, to have this conversation. And what I've learned in life is you never know where these conversations are going to take you, and the impact and the effect that it has. But first and foremost, this conversation happens because of you. And so I want to acknowledge you for where you think and what you're committed to. The fact that you're worried about your mum, or your thoughts are there with your mum as such, to make sure that she's all good. I have the same relationship and feelings about my mum as well too, and it's so important. I know that if you're doing that there, then you're doing it everywhere with other people, and the way that you listen to life is through certain situations and experiences that make you aware of what people are going through. So keep up the good work, brother. I know that Jamie would be so proud of the fact that we're talking today. I know that, brother, and I know that he'd be so. I remember, the time that he had with you, and it brings. I still laugh today about the fun that he's had, and the impact and the effect that he made. And this is one of the things for me when we're coming back up there next year, is that we're coming up to honour our brother and the impact and the effect that he's had on lives back then, but ongoingly. Today we're still talking about our brother. We always will. We'll always honour him, and the impact and the effect that he's had in America and down here, down under as well too. But all of those men that you acknowledge that are doing incredible things, and the many more that we know, and our ladies too. I'm just really passionate about our women in life. That there's a great opportunity for us as men to honour our ladies in our lives, the feminine energy. Those that are doing wonderful things to uphold us, to empower, and to lift us up. Because for so long, sadly, many women have had to hold that space for us men to show up the way that we need to. So there's always an opportunity for us to acknowledge the feminine and to acknowledge the women in our lives, because of the simple fact that they are the life givers. Without women, we don't exist. They hold life, they carry life, they cause life and create it and give birth to it. It's the most powerful thing on earth. And if we're not honouring that, then there's a part of us in society that leaves something unacknowledged, and it's so important for us to make sure that we're always honouring things, that especially our women that give us life. So thank you, brother. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak today, and I love the fact that you'll come and connect with us in America. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you in America. I just want to give you a big hug right now, but Brother Leon, I'm proud of you too, so thank you so much. Haka for life. I hope everybody checks that out. I'm not even on TikTok yet, so so don't worry about being on Facebook. Anywhere that you can share this information is a great place to do it. And I can't wait for people to check out this conversation and be impacted in that way. I know that this will help somebody. This will help more than just nourishing us and having this conversation. Other people, other men, other women will be impacted by this, and it'll serve. And so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And hey, just want to send my love to everybody up there in America as well. And I look forward to coming back there. I want to make sure that I create a powerful footprint there in the future as well. Thank you so much, brother.